if you don't know, Tom Savini, everybody here knows who Tom Savini is, but let me just introduce you if you don't know.
Well, who doesn't know?
Oh, everybody knows.
All right.
There, a couple of Tom.
Get out.
There you go.
He doesn't know.
Let me build you up a little. Tom
Okay,
Savini is an award-winning special effects and makeup artist whose work includes Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Maniac, Creepshow, helped create Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th. He's an actor, a performer, a stuntman, master of the bullwhip, tournament fencer.
I brought it, you know.
Awesome.
Yeah, but
What are you doing? And he's all around a great guy as well. I'm going to step out of the way and you take over. Tom Savini, everyone, give a warm round of applause.
Well, what do you want to know? I can't see hands. I can see that hand.
My name's Cameron Messer. I'm in the film program.
Yeah, Cameron.
I grew up watching the classic monsters all the way back to Lon Chaney. I was wondering who influenced you personally?
Who influenced me personally? Well, Lon Chaney. When I was 11 years old, I saw A Man of a Thousand Faces. Did you ever see that one? It's a story of Lon Chaney, starring James Cagney. James Cagney played Lon Chaney. If you don't know who Lon Chaney is, well, first of all, get out. If you're staying, he was the silent movie star. He was the first Phantom of the Opera. He was the first Hunchback of Notre Dame. He would have been Dracula if he hadn't died of throat cancer, and Bela Lugosi got the role of Dracula. But he was also, an astounding makeup artist. So I saw that movie, and it was for the first time I realized that people create the monsters, because before that movie, I thought they were real. Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, the old ones. The old ones are the best. I still think so. But that was the first movie that made me see that somebody created this stuff. So I decided then and there I'm going to be one of the guys that creates the monsters, So he was a big influence. I have a son named Lon, after Lon Chaney. He has a daughter named Chaney, okay? There's a Chaney Savini in the world, a girl. Hopefully people won't think she was named after Dick Cheney, But yeah, the conversation's going to be very interesting when she grows up. Her father's name is Lon. Tom Savini's her, grandfather. So anyway, big influence. Yeah.
Phillips brings the Valley.
Okay.
Big obnoxious Italian name. I'm a film student, and I was wondering, what really inspired the jump as far as Jason goes from the burlap sack to the hockey mask?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, what inspired the jump for Jason Voorhees but he went from the bag to the hockey mask. There is a story in there somewhere. Rob, isn't it in Crystal Lake Memories? There's a new documentary that just came out on all that stuff. Somebody explains, it was an accident, I think, it was like running out and buying a William Shatner mask for Halloween. It was something like that, and that's how that became an icon. I really don't know. I know that Jason shouldn't exist. He was a kid that died in the first movie. The mother was the killer. I turned down part 2 because they sent me the script and there's Jason running around. I was like, what? Why is Jason? Oh, no, we're going to change that. Well, they never did. So I turned it down, did The Burning. Instead, they didn't offer me part 3, but the series was waning, so part 4 is called The Final Chapter. It was going to be the last one. But it made so much money, we're going to see Friday the 13th, part 13. Actually, I'm being courted to direct the next one. I want to bring Kane Hodder back. I want to, just do a ballsy, yeah. Because one of the things people liked about the Friday the 13th movies was, the unique ways that the teenagers died, in the woods. And in part 4, the same thing occurred on part 1. If I can go off on Friday the 13th for a little bit, they did not have an ending for the film. I think the movie ended with Betsy Palmer, in the script anyway, getting her head cut off. But I says, why don't we have, Jason pop back up, out of the lake when the girl is out there? And they were like, how can we do that? He's dead, Well, let's make it a dream. Somebody told me that St. Elsewhere, the TV series, a whole season was a dream. Somebody woke up. Or even like Dallas, JR came out of the shower and the whole season was a dream. If you make something a dream, the audience accepts it no matter what you show, So, and plus I had seen Carrie when at the end of the movie the music comes up, you think the credits are going to roll any second, and that hand comes out of the grave. It scared the hell out of people. So that's why. Let's have Jason come up and do that. So part 4, there was no ending on that, and that's when we created, the machete in Jason's head and him sliding down the blade. But I had a different ending in mind. I wanted Tommy. Interesting that the kid, Corey Feldman's name was Tommy, and he was an effects guy. I wanted him to be an amateur inventor as well, like have a microwave oven shooter with a reflector, and with a variac that goes from 1 to 10 on 1, it would melt like a toy soldier. And in the fight at the end, he would jam that into Jason's head and cook him from within, and his head would explode, okay? So they said, well, you know, you have to run that past the money people. So I had to call some guy in Boston, explain this to him. He said, no, I think we need to stick with the Friday the 13th formula, you know, Jason killing naked teenagers in the woods with household implements, you know. I mean, today a microwave is a household implement, you know. But so then one of my guys, John Vulich, put the machete from Dawn of the Dead on his head. I said, that's it. Just by him doing that, we thought of how to, you know, the way to kill Jason. So I cut his head in half in part 4. Part 5, the ashtray was Jason. His spirit kept invading things, you know. I stopped watching him after part 5 because they're so stupid. Even the remake that came out was the dumbest one. It was supposed to be a retelling. There's lines like, your tits are stupendous. Who wrote this, you know? Who wrote this thing, you know? Or a guy drops his gun in a puddle of water, and he's down there, and he actually says, where are you, gun? Very stupid. It's time to make it a smart, ballsy, you know, gory movie again.
Hi, my name is Sophie Van Look. I'm a special effect makeup artist. I'm studying computer animation. First of all, thank you for coming in today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for, I want to thank everybody who's responsible for bringing me here, and that means you.
My question is, what was your biggest challenge in special effect makeup?
They're all a challenge, you know, really. I get a script, and the job is to figure out how to do this stuff. I wrote 2 books a while back on makeup effects called Grand Illusions, because I think of them as magic tricks. They've just been combined into one book that's now out again on the shelves. Excuse me, Grand Illusions. The biggest challenge, I don't know, maybe it was Fluffy from Creepshow, the creature, yeah. Because I had never done one of those before, you know. So I called Rob Bottin on the phone. You know who Rob Bottin is, right? The Howling, Total Recall. Anyway, he spent like 2 hours on the phone explaining how to do it. And then I went to California for the premiere of Night Riders and went to his house, and he showed me all the mechanisms. And so that's how I learned how to do Fluffy. So that was the most challenging because I didn't know how to do it, you know. But a lot in Creepshow, everything I've ever done has worked, except anything I tried to do to Stephen King on Creepshow. We had a tongue that grew plants. You know when he turns into the plant? We had a hand that grew plants. Wouldn't work. We couldn't get the green lenses in his eyes because his reflexes were too tough, you know? So nothing. And I wanted to impress him. You know, it's Stephen King, you know? So nothing I tried on Stephen King worked. So if I could go back and redo something, it would be everything on Stephen King for a Creepshow.
My name is Morgan Reisner. I'm a film student too. And I've had colleagues here at Full Sail tell me how makeup is the least important in film. How would you handle this situation?
That person's been fired, haven't they? Makeup is the least important thing in film? Well, then what would Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde have looked like?
It's kind of cool.
You know, if you've seen Spencer Tracy's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Spencer Tracy was one of the greatest actors we've ever had. His makeup was subtle, but it is what was needed, you know? I mean, the only person that played Dr. Jekyll without makeup was John Barrymore, but even after the initial transformation, there had to be makeup on him. Well, that's like saying to a car company, you know, my teacher told me that steering wheels were not necessary, you know, in cars. You know. Makeup, I mean, that's essential, that's critical. To me, especially, you know, I'm a makeup guy. Yeah, rather than go through every example of the greatest makeups through film history, you know, I think that question is obvious, you know. Granted, maybe he's from the school of visual, what's a good word for it? What comes to my mind right now is a movie called In Cold Blood, the Truman Capote novel that was turned into a movie starring Robert Blake. And whether this was the DP or the director, I remember Robert Blake he was already in prison, and he was looking out a window, and he was talking about how his dismal life and, you know, his equally dismal future because he was going to be hanged. And the DP decided, or somebody decided to make it rain. So the light coming through the window and the rain coming across the light caused rain teardrops to be flowing down his face. That was brilliant. I'm ready to cry right now thinking of how outstanding that was. And that's not makeup, it was somebody. So maybe he's of the school of, it's not about the materials, it's about the ideas, okay? Because, we have a film school in Pennsylvania, the Factory. My name was on it for a while. We took it off not to diffuse my name being on the makeup program. But I went out and shot a commercial. I went and bought the cheapest camera I could buy at Kmart and shot a whole commercial for the film program with wide shots of Pittsburgh and lots of special effects to prove the point that it's not about the equipment, it's about the ideas, it's about what's in your head and getting it on film or digitally, so maybe that's where he was coming from.
You have a unique relationship with Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. How is it when you get three geniuses as yourselves in a room together coming up with ideas?
I'm glad you said the word genius because I was invited to the Machete Kills premiere, and after the movie, Robert called me on stage, and the first thing I said to him was that you fit the Schopenhauer definition of genius, which is talent hits a target that nobody else can. Genius hits a target nobody else can see, and that is Robert, and that is Quentin. Have you seen Django Unchained? Anybody see Django Unchained? Yeah. We did a lot more in that movie. Not a lot of it I wound up in the movie, But I handled the dogs, the dogs that chased the slave up the tree. Great actor, Otto, by the way, up in that tree. But they brought him down, and they attached a fake arm to him, and the dogs were supposed to rip his arm off, okay? So he had his real arm behind his back. So every time they did the take, and the dogs would attack, they would move him around and stuff, because the dogs, I'll tell you a story about the dogs. But you could see his real arm, and Quentin was getting frustrated about shooting 5 or 6 takes with that real arm showing. So while they were setting up again, he walked past me, and I said, Quentin, when I did that effect in Day of the Dead with Miguel, and he knew it because Quentin has seen every movie ever made. He really has. I said I dug a hole in the ground, so the guy's real arm goes in the hole, and all you're aware of is the guy's body, and the only arm you see is the fake arm, I said, but don't say that I said anything, because my friends were doing the effects, K&B, Greg Nicotero, they're doing the effects. I said, but don't say that came from me. I don't want them to think, So Quentin goes back to the set, and, after 10 minutes, he says, hey, why don't you guys dig a hole in the ground, And they were like, well, why? I mean, that's like, no, just give it a shot, I think that'll work, But when I told him about it, he says, well, what if the dogs drag the guy around? I said, well, you guys have been planting anchors in the ground for the lights and stuff. Put an anchor in there, and the guy could be holding it behind his back. Anyway, the take worked beautifully. It was, many takes, and, you never saw the guy's real arm. And about 5 minutes later, Quentin walks past me, and he puts something in my hand. And look, and it was $5, okay? So he says, we have a tradition on my sets that if somebody from another department solves a problem for another department, it's called the $5 shot, So I was the $5 hero, all day. But he said, never before has an expert from another department told that department what to do, So I was the $5 hero. That's what it's like to be on a Quentin Tarantino set, okay? But also, he does this thing that I've heard about, and I never I participated on it twice while we were shooting Django. He will shoot, 5, 6, 7 takes, and he would announce to the cast and crew, okay, we're doing another one. Why? And the whole cast and crew will chime at the top of their voices, because we love making movies, okay? That's what it's like on Quentin's set, okay? And Robert is truly a genius. We're heading down to the premiere of the Dusk Till Dawn television series that he's been directing, okay? It's going to premiere March, sometime after the 6th. We're flying down there to do that. I could talk about Robert all day. But what was your question?
How is it when you guys get into a room collaborating?
Oh yeah. No, that's great fun. The brain. That's to hear their stories, to hear Quentin. Quentin is like a 13-year-old kid, but he's a brilliant 13-year-old kid that happens to have great big toys. Movies. I rewatched *Inglourious Bastards* again the other night, and it was just so good, you know. Those movies should be a great inspiration. You're all film students, right? Of course. That's right. We're at Full Sail. Okay, I thought about that.
You are a master of horror, I would say. You're definitely up there. And now you can hear me. What scares you?
Spiders.
Yeah?
Spiders, razor blades, you know. Spiders are, you walk up to me with either one, you know, here, take my bank account, you know. I just can't. The cockroaches in Creepshow, you know, we had 28,000 cockroaches. I was never in the same room with those roaches. You know. I looked through a window inside a sealed room. Cue the blood, cue the roaches, action, okay. I was accidentally, I built this body of E.G. Marshall, all the roaches came out of, you know. So there were syringes in the throat, big syringes, and a huge syringe behind his chest. And the entomologist would fill those with roaches and then, you know, just plunge them out of his mouth or out of his chest, you know. So there was a trap door in the throat. So I was testing the trap door, I think, or something. And a roach came up and touched my hand. And in my memory, I appeared on the other side of the room. I don't know how I got there, but I was suddenly here, and all of a sudden, I'm 15 feet away looking at where I was, okay? Roaches, yeah. So bugs and razors, but people, yeah, I'm mostly afraid of people. There are some crazy people out there, you know. Luckily, I've only come in contact with, you know, great people. Even actors in movies. I've never had a prima donna or a bad actor, you know, somebody come in and cause trouble. I've been lucky that I've always worked with great people, you know.
Hi, I have a question. Is there a horror film you would have loved to do the special effects for?
Yeah, most of them.
Because I would have loved to see your interpretation of what they did in The Thing, and just to see what you would have done in your brain on that film. The effects were great and nothing to take away from them, but your mind on that film would have been great to see.
Thanks. But my feeling is the greatest example. I mean, I've been called the king of splatter, the wizard of gore. But to me, the masterpiece of splatter is what Rob Bottin did in The Thing. I mean, I wouldn't do it if somebody offered, because, you know, couldn't do it. I mean, it was ridiculous for me to direct Night of the Living Dead because somebody else had already made that, you know. But that's the only film that George could get financing on back then. And, you know, when he came to me and said, you know, we're going to do a remake of Night of the Living Dead, I'm thinking, great, I'm going to be creating a bunch of zombies. Oh, no, I want you to direct it. Oh, God, okay, you know, so. And I get a lot of positive feedback on that movie now, but I didn't like it because it had like 30% of what I intended to do in it. So every time I saw it, I avoided seeing it because it just so pissed me off that I wasn't able to do all that stuff. But I might be doing something down here, a zombie thing. Or I'm going to put everything I didn't get to do in Night of the Living Dead in it, okay? And there's a lot that I didn't get to do in Night of the Living Dead. Yes? Volunteer. You volunteer as what? As a zombie. Lose 40 pounds. No, I don't mean that you're heavy. I mean, even a normal person, to me, would have to be skeletal to be a zombie. Huh? Okay, we got two thin guys. Dave, we got two zombies over here. Ah, I forgot. They're all black. All the zombies are black. Because if I've learned one thing from Blackula, black vampires are scarier than white vampires. But that's not why. The zombie film that I'm talking about takes place, it's like a Haiti voodoo type zombies, where they're being mind controlled with the actor. Tony Todd's going to play the guy in the woods who is distilling scopolamine and controlling this mass of people with that. It's like 28 Days. You know, they weren't zombies. They were just messed up people. You know, they were a virus or chemical. So that kind of zombie. But I think we're going to incorporate somehow, if they die, they will come back, you know, and then we can do some really decayed, gross kind of zombies. I don't just want, you know, black zombies with mud and scars all over them, you know. Because to me, the greatest zombies today are what Greg Nicotero is doing on The Walking Dead, you know. But so I have to one-up him, okay? I was up to direct the remake of Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, okay? And that still might happen. But that was going to be, and these aren't people that died and turned into zombies. These are people that were buried and came out of the grave as zombies, okay? That's the difference. And that would have been, to me, the next level, you know, on how to, you know, create some better, juicier, you know, zombies.
Hi, my name is Holly. I'm a film student here. I have a question. What is a typical day like in your field? I realize every day may be different, but doing makeup and special effects on set in the soundstage.
Well, every day is different because, every job is different, just about. I mean, I almost take that back because in the 80s, the decade of the splatter movies. What's funny?
Right here.
I'm over here.
Where?
Look where the light is.
Hello.
Sounds like you're coming from over there. All right, I'll look this way.
Hello.
I still can't see you, but okay.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate
that
it.
would have been a great acting like I'm blind kind of thing, because you're over there and I'm talking here. Isn't that what an actor does when they're being blind? Okay.
It's totally cool.
Let me try to remember the question though. Oh, a typical day. Yes, it's different because I was going to say because the movies are different, but in the 80s, every script I got was the same thing. It was some kids were trapped somewhere and someone was killing them, I got a script once where the murder weapon was a Cuisinart, yes, that was one, but also a Swiss Army knife, and the guy was killing them with a different implement. It was so, I turned that one down, obviously, But it was I was using the same appliances from movie to movie. There was always a cutthroat. There was always like something coming out of the chest. So, but it's different. I mean, it's different depending on the crew as well. When I did Creepshow, it was me and a 17-year-old kid that did all that stuff. That was 5 movies in Creepshow. On Day of the Dead, I had a crew of like 12 people, guiding and telling 12 people what to do compared to the 17-year-old kid, who we were just experimenting. That was different. It's, you know what? You can read all about that in my new biography that's coming out when I talk about stuff just like that. But that's sort of an essay question right now, okay? But it's always different.
My name is Andrew Dahl. I'm also on the film program. I just wanted to know, out of all the years, what was your favorite gore effect you've done, and in what movie?
Favorite gore effect. God, they're all my children, it's hard to pick favorites. Fluffy, of course, from Creepshow was, I just loved creating him. But then I'm thinking about Grandpa in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Lizzie, the creature in the closet from, Tales from the Dark Side. The helicopter zombie in Dawn of the Dead, that always gets applause, at movie theaters. So that's one of my, in fact, the new Gore Zone magazine that just came out, I do a column in all of them now, and this last one I'm talking about, the helicopter zombie. But what else? You said gore effect, right? Yeah. The helicopter zombie, Mike Tersick's guts coming out of him in Day of the Dead, they were real pig intestines that we used. I don't think you can buy that stuff today, Really, you tried? Pig intestines? Well, do you know that we had a 5-gallon drum of pig intestines, and we used them over and over again because Miguel had a dream sequence where his guts come out, and then we did Mike Tersick twice because I'm in the dailies watching it, and I realized when I cast his body, I made him lie in a hole, so that I knew whatever I added to him wouldn't add too much. It would be added onto a body that's sunken, so it would look like a normal chest. So when we're watching the dailies of him, rising up and his guts falling out, he rose up too high, and you could see the hole. Now, do I say that? Do I tell them? Because if I tell them, they're going to make me do it over again, and that was a big deal, So I told them, And we did it. So we did it on him twice. This time he just rolled over and his guts came out without rising up to see the hole. So we had this 5-gallon drum of pig intestines, and then we went to Florida for 3 weeks to do the zombie stuff in the missile silo. And right after we left, somebody unplugged the refrigerator. So the guts were rotting and decaying and putrefying in this hot. But when we came back, we had to tear Joe Pilato apart. And we used those guts, okay?
Wow.
If you were on set, I was wearing a gas mask. The zombies had wax up their noses, and we had English leather on our lips. Because the smell, you've never smelled anything this horrible, okay? But Joe Pilato, who was trapped in the floor because it was a fake body on top of the floor, he was trapped for 4 hours with breathing the rancid pig intestine guts, okay? Yeah, acting in movies is so glamorous, isn't it? Yes.
What was your inspiration for pursuing the stuntman part of your career?
It wasn't an inspiration. I was on Dawn of the Dead, and they hadn't gotten their act together to hire stuntmen. So I said, I can do that. I'll jump off that balcony. I'll get hit by the trucks. I did like 16 stunts in Dawn of the Dead, And it kind of gave me a reputation for, doing my own stunts, which I tried to do in the films. And even got an honorary thing from Stuntmen's Stunts Unlimited, okay? Because I was doing stunts on Night Riders with the motorcycle, But that was it. It was just one day. It just happened that they didn't have a stunt guy, and I said, I can do that. Because I was a gymnast, in high school, and not afraid of the ground, and that's what it takes, I don't think I'd do it today, not anymore. It's just still very dangerous.
Hi. I'm Morgan Wire. I'm in the film program.
Another Morgan.
Yes. Kind of on a different route as far as acting for you. I know you have a big background in horror. How was your experience on things like Zack and Miri or Perks of Being a Wallflower?
You saw Perks?
Yes.
Did you go, what the hell is he doing in this movie?
I was like, hey,
there's going to be zombies
guy.
or machine guns pretty soon if he's in this movie, right?
Yeah, I saw it was like out of your repertoire. So I was just curious how you like acting on like non-horror.
No, but that's what it's about. That's what acting is. Acting
right.
is that.
Great.
Have you seen Captain Phillips?
I have not.
Anybody see Captain Phillips? Yeah. The last scene with Tom Hanks? That's acting. What was going on in his mind? He was sitting there, I bet you he was thinking of 12 things at the same time and didn't care what was happening to him physically to convey. That's what an actor does. Acting is the most fun, okay? Because it deals with emotions and real emotions. Actors that you don't get into, that you watch, like surface actors, they're not believing what they're doing when you're looking in their eyes, When your face is 50 feet high and 60 feet wide, you better believe what you're doing, because people looking at you are need to be believing it, And that's the challenge. Anybody watching True Detective on HBO these days? You haven't seen that? Oh, it's Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. There's a reason these people are stars, because they're believing, they're actors, that are believing what they're doing. And here's something else about actors. Okay, you wake up in the morning, you have a nice breakfast, you drink your coffee, you read the paper, and you go to work, and you have to pretend that some motorcycle gang just raped your daughter. What if you don't feel like doing that, A professional does his job whether he feels like it or not, You have to cry in 5 minutes. Right there, you have to cry in 5 minutes. What would it take? What would you have to do to gear yourself into a situation, into a mindset where your body will produce tears? That's what an actor does, see? And that's fun. And if you saw Matthew McConaughey accepting I think it was the Golden Globe, his whole speech was about how he nailed it, okay? And that reward to him of nailing it is what was so important to him. He realized, in everyday life situations where actors like him are always in character, When I did Django, Leonardo DiCaprio was that guy during lunch, no matter what. He was always that guy. I wanted to talk to him, but I didn't want to be like a fanboy, So I knew that he liked movie posters, so I brought up, we talked about movie posters, we talked about quitting smoking, but he was answering me as that guy from, the plantation owner. He was always in character. Juliette Lewis does that too. She said that somebody, I think it was Anthony Hopkins, told her, don't hang out with the crowd, don't go socializing, stay in your trailer and concentrate on who you are. So when the director says action, you're coming out of a much deeper place but there are actors that can be telling jokes and playing cards, action, and they do it, That's brilliant that they can do that. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent, I realize, about acting, because it's just so much fun, but it is torture and stressful. And the other thing that goes on a set, in Grindhouse, I had to do this scene where I'm angry as hell, and the guy just bit my finger off. I'm the detective, and I'm pounding things, and give me a tissue, and Michael Biehn, is there. So it's like 4 o'clock in the morning, and we haven't done this scene yet, and I'm stressing about it being real, and am I going to be real, or are they going to be believing me? What's Robert going to think? But mostly getting into what the hell the guy's life is, what his situation is, And so it's like 4:30, it's 5 o'clock, you know. It's 5:30 in the morning, the sun's coming up. I'm so relieved because we're probably not going to get to it. To the set, and we do that scene, okay? Yeah, 15 times. So that's what it's like to be, you know, acting. It's so glamorous, yeah.
Can you tell us the story on how you first got started and like how you got your first big job, pretty much?
Well, it's what I tell my students. I read a definition about success. There's a few definitions out there. Henry David Thoreau's is advancing confidently in the direction of your dreams. Bob Dylan has one, but I forget who said this one. That any fool can put themselves in the right place at the right time, but you have to be ready when you're in that place, okay? I tell my makeup students, don't go anywhere without your portfolio. I mean, you never know when you're going to meet that person that can help or hire you. You can put your portfolio on your phone. That's with you all the time. You can put it on a flash drive on your keychain. Having a hard copy is no big deal. You have it in your car. And that's what happened to me. I was in a bar. I don't drink, but I was delivering signs to a bar. And there was a interesting guy sitting over in the corner, leather jacket. He looked like Indiana Jones. He had a fedora hat on. I started chatting with him, and he had just finished being the art director on Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things down here in Florida. And I had my portfolio in the car, my stage portfolio, because I had done 7 years of repertory theater. And I showed it to him. 3 days later, I was doing my first movie in Brooksville, Florida, called Death Dream. Because when I was in the right place at the right time, I was ready. I was able to show what I did. Talking is bullshit. You know, you start talking to somebody, hey, I'm an actor, hey, I'm a makeup artist. It's going in and it's going out, and they don't give a shit. Show them something. That's what speaks for you. Your portfolio speaks for you. You're not your portfolio anymore. I mean, you're not yourself anymore. You are the portfolio. That's what speaks for you, and it speaks loudly, you know. It's the same thing with if you're a director or a filmmaker. You know, you have a reel. You know, you put that reel on Vimeo and get it up in the cloud, you know, so you can press a button and show it to somebody on any given time, you know. You need to be able to prove what you do and when you meet that person. And you will, you know. It makes me mad. I was in Michigan. Michigan was going to be the movie-making state, okay? They shot Oz, the Great and Powerful. People were building movie studios there. I'm at a convention, and producer after producer was walking up to me. Hey, man, we need makeup artists, you know? Because I have a school, which is an assembly line of makeup artists. Later on that day, one of my students came up to me. And I said, hey, man, this is your lucky day. There are producers everywhere looking for makeup artists. You should show them your stuff. He didn't have them with him. If I see my students outside of the school someplace in 7-Eleven or something, and they don't have their portfolio, you know, I get pissed off. I'm going to tell your mother, you know, or something, you know. Because it's a shame. That guy wasted, that opportunity is gone. He'll never have that opportunity again. Anyway.
Yes, sir. Where do you see the evolution of horror going in the future?
Well, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. Zombies are pretty popular and have been around for a long time and still are doing it. Vampires, werewolves. I mean, look at TV is totally trying to capitalize on the Twilight series. Anything that's successful, they try to capitalize on it. You know, all these remakes and sequels that are coming out, it's just because something else was successful. Take something that was bad and remake it and make it better, you know. But it's hard. Nobody knows that. If you read Goldman's book, Adventures in the Screen Trade, he says, I've learned two things from that book. One, nobody knows anything. If somebody comes up to you and says, hey, man, I got this script, guaranteed a hit. This person is an idiot and doesn't know anything about the movies or how it works. Because everybody knows that nobody knows for sure anything, like what's going to be popular, what's the next fad. Nobody knows that. And if somebody's trying to tell you that, again, they know nothing, okay? But the other thing, what else did he say in that book? There was nobody knows anything. There were two great things in that book. I'll think of it. I think one of them is the Hollywood no. Nobody ever says no to you. You know, they don't want to be the person who says no. They'll string you along for 5 years, you know, but never tell you no. That might be part of that book. Yeah. Right over here?
Hello? Yeah, over here.
Over here, okay.
Yeah, my name is Roberto from CA, Computer Animation, and I wanted to ask you, how would you like to work on a game, like a video game, given the fact that, well, nowadays movies and games have really almost the same quality, And like there's a lot of directing and heavy acting on some of the latest games that we've seen. And so like I wanted to ask you if you've tinkered with the idea of making like a horror game or something of the sort.
Yeah, I've been approached a few times. A company in France gave me a bunch of money to be in this thing called City of the Dead. They had posters made. They had big displays for conventions. Then I never heard from them. We never made the game. I'm in a game called Loco Cycle. Okay, that's somewhere. Have you seen that? You have seen that. Loco Cycle? Okay, I haven't seen it yet. But no, I'd love to do that. I mean, in fact, in City of the Dead, I played a guy who you had to reach a certain level before I showed up with all this equipment that you could use. And the most requested piece of equipment was the dick gun from Dusk Till Dawn, the crotch rocket, you know. But you had to reach a certain level before that would come your way. Okay. By the way, I didn't know I was going to wear that until they strapped it on me one day, and we just couldn't stop laughing, you know. It was so hilarious.
I have a friend who's aspiring to be a makeup artist. She'd love to be on Face Off or work on The Walking Dead. I've asked if you have any like advice for specifically aspiring makeup artists.
Yeah, go to my school.
Go to your school? All right, I'll make sure to tell her that.
Face Off comes to my school and auditions the students. 4 contestants on Face Off right now are students from my school, okay? Two of them got kicked off. 2 are still left. Darren and Tyler on Face Off right now are students from my school. But it's the same thing. Photograph everything you do, put it in a portfolio, and put that portfolio in front of people that can help or hire you. There is no formula for success, but what I just said works. Anybody that's working out there, they have done that, okay? Tell her that.
In the movie Friday the 13th, the part where the 2 people are having sex on the bed and...
Wait, that's every movie.
Well, no, the first part, and you stick the spear through the neck. And it shows that it actually goes through the neck. Right. How did you shoot? How was that shot?
That was Kevin Bacon. Yeah. I did a movie before that called Martin, where a stake had to go in a guy's neck from the outside. And George Romero said that they were going to go to a slaughterhouse and shoot a close-up on a calf's neck or something and stick it in. And I said, no, let's stick it in so you can see the guy's face when it's happening. He says, well, how? I don't know. We'll figure it out, you know. So, I just built a fake neck and chest of the actor from Martin, and he laid on top of the neck, and it looked like that was his body, and I drove the stake into the fake neck, okay? In Kevin Bacon's case, same thing. I think I used the same piece. It wasn't from Kevin. We didn't cast Kevin Bacon's neck to create that. So, Kevin was actually sitting under the bed with his neck resting on the fake body. And I put the same shirt on the body, the same necklace that Kevin had, because your instant association would be that that's still him, okay? And I had an arrow I had an ice bag attached behind the neck on the plaster lining that the foam latex neck sat on. And there was a hole where the arrow was going to come through. And I glued an ice bag and filled it with blood. My friend Tassa was pumping blood into the ice bag. So me forcing the arrow through his neck pushed against the bag and made blood come out of it. But when we did the effect, the blood tube came off the pump. And Tasso grabbed it and blew in it. And that's what created the nice, beautiful gurgling of blood that came out of it. So it was a happy accident on one of the classiest effects that I'm known for, and that's Kevin Bacon's death, yeah. So that was a great accident. Sometimes that happens.
Hi, I remember you. I didn't introduce myself earlier. I'm Jason Brown. I'm a computer animation student. With visual effects going towards computers nowadays, how do you feel do you feel as if it's threatening your genre of horror?
Used to be, no, but not anymore. I love CGI when it's done well. Lord of the Rings, just enhancement of the eyes. They still haven't mastered blood splattering and things like that. But there's a war going on now between practical effects and the visual effects guys. For one thing, 3 major visual effects studios have gone bankrupt because they're sending the stuff overseas. It's going to China or India, one of those places, okay? So there's this collective dislike of visual effects. But again, I love it. I wish we had it when I was doing stuff to hide an edge or, create something, that would move more fluidly than the puppets that we were, making move animatronically. Well, but we teach the animatronics at my school. And the students come in, sometimes they've never sculpted anything, and they're amazed that like 2 months later, they've created this. It's the Frankenstein syndrome. You've created something that didn't exist before, and you give it life through the animatronics. We call it the Frankenstein syndrome. But again, I like it when it's done. The remake of Evil Dead that just came out, it was bragging that it was all practical effects. It's not CGI. J.J. Abrams, with the new Star Wars movie, is building puppets again. Yoda's going to be a puppet. I mean, he's going to do as much practical stuff as possible. So there was this collective dislike of CGI, and now it's kind of moving back to the practical stuff. It's still going to be around, though. It's still invaluable as far as I'm concerned, yeah.
When you started doing special effects in the beginning, like Martin, Dawn of the Dead, all that, did you already have an idea of what you were going to do, or did it kind of just happen?
For
the visualization of like the zombies, or especially the zombie, like the original Dawn of the Dead. Did you always have an idea of what you want it to look like, or did it just kind of happen?
No. I had done Martin with George, and I went back to Carolina. I was doing a play, and I got a telegram from George, and it said, "Start thinking of ways to kill people because we have another gig." Okay, and that was Dawn of the Dead. So. Night of the Living Dead was a black and white movie, so, I didn't think that the zombies needed to be anything more than just gray, okay? So I just painted them all gray. And that was how you would see the difference between a normal human being and a zombie. They were gray. However, the light sometimes made them green, made them blue, We did some prosthetic stuff, but most of them were gray. And the blood was terrible. The blood looked like melted crayons. It was horrible. I bought it from the 3M company. It was stage blood. This is before I learned Dick Smith's blood formula. Dick Smith is the greatest living makeup artist on the planet. Everything that effects guys do today, Dick invented, and we're all kind of improving and using his ideas, his experiments, his science, Dick Smith. And his blood formula is the best blood formula there is. In fact, he was doing The Godfather, and Francis Ford Coppola kept complaining he didn't think the blood looked too real. So Dick took a razor blade and cut his finger and squeezed as much blood out as he could. And he walked over to Francis and he said, "How about this?" He said, "Oh, that's so fake." It was his real blood, So he showed him the cut, and that was that. Anyway, what was the question again? I keep going off on these tangents.
You always knew what you were gonna do.
Oh, for the zombies, yeah. No, I would just paint them gray and make them look different than the other people. It wasn't until Day of the Dead that I made every zombie different. Because, and they complained. They complained that the zombies didn't all look the same on Day of the Dead. And I tried to explain to them that, if somebody dies in a basement compared to somebody that dies in a hot attic, they're going to look different. The attic guy is going to be, shriveled and dry, and the basement guy is going to be bloated and maybe a different color. Ethnic groups look different when they die. So all the zombies in Day of the Dead they looked different. The first scene that you saw zombies was when their hands came through the wall, and they were all different. And that's when they complained. How come they're all different? Why, they expected them all to be gray. But that was, I won the Saturn Award for Day of the Dead because of the effects on the zombies. That's really my masterpiece, Day of the Dead, as far as splatter goes. But just real quick, because I just made them gray in Dawn of the Dead. And I had no, you know why? Here's why. Star Wars came out, and instead of concentrating on the effects for Dawn of the Dead, I was busy building a Darth Vader costume, okay? I had to be Darth Vader that Halloween, okay? I called Don Post Studios to buy the mask. I said, yeah, we can have it for you. This was like, June, July. We could have it for you next year, August of next year. I said, no, I've got to be Darth Vader. So I took my army helmet from Vietnam and turned that into Darth Vader's helmet, and I sculpted the whole suit, lights, belt. So I was concentrating on Darth Vader and not the effects for Dawn of the Dead. I did the helicopter zombie, I did the other things, but I was more concerned with building my Darth Vader, okay? Nobody knows that, by the way.
I have a question.
Okay.
What was your worst experience in your entire career, or the worst thing you've ever seen, and how did you personally handle it?
The worst thing I've ever seen?
Or the worst experience yourself you've been through?
I was a combat photographer in Vietnam. I saw horrible stuff. My job was to go out and photograph the bodies after they had blown up or been, hit by a grenade or bullets, not our guys, the Viet Cong, So I saw horrible stuff. And, I went kind of crazy. Everybody does. You got to turn off your emotions when you're looking at that stuff, the real stuff. And, my marriage went right in the toilet when I came home, because I came home a zombie. I came home an emotionless person because I had turned them off in Vietnam, and they don't just come right back on, But the safety for me in Vietnam was looking through the camera at some guy who was blown in half or something, And I'm thinking, how would I create that, okay? And that's how my reputation came out of doing that. How would I create that? So my stuff was always anatomically correct. It had to be anatomically correct because Vietnam was a lesson in anatomy for me, So if the fake stuff that I created didn't give me the same feeling I got when I saw the real stuff, the fake stuff wasn't real enough. Because here's what pisses me off about movies today. When somebody dies, okay, a guy's like coughing up blood, his buddy's giving him a cigarette, and he dies in his arms. And he, just before, when he dies, he goes, he wants to look pretty for the camera, This is not what happens. People die with like one eye closed, one eye half open, sometimes smiles on the face, but the jaw always goes slack. This is a muscle that doesn't work anymore. Zombies should all be looking like that. Dead bodies, when somebody dies, the jaw should be slack. I don't see that in movies, and it ruins the movie for me when I see a dead body or something and their mouth is closed. That damn director doesn't know enough because he hasn't. I'm the only makeup artist that has seen the real stuff, okay? And that's the difference. That's how I got my reputation for realism, because I saw, the real stuff. But my buddy was out. Gene Buttons was his name. He was out on patrol, and he got his ball shot off. And right after that, he was the guy who did it. We used to drop pamphlets in North Vietnamese areas that would say something like, if you say these words, these Vietnamese words, to the American soldiers, we knew that you were surrendering, and you were giving yourself over for rehabilitation. You were turning yourself in, so to speak. Okay. So Gene gets shot, and the guy who shot him throws his weapon down, and he puts his hands up like this. And he starts walking toward Gene, and Gene's trying to get his M16 to unjam, because they were always, jamming. And he was able to finally shoot the guy, okay? I mean, he shouldn't have done that, because the guy just shot his balls off, okay? So so he shot the guy. And when the guy went down, the grenade that he had in his armpit, he had pulled the pin out of a grenade and put it in his armpit. If he got close enough, he was going to pitch it, okay? He goes down, and the grenade goes off and just explodes and just tears him apart. I was walking to where he was, and his arm was like, 100 yards away. I stepped on the guy's arm almost, So that was pretty horrible. But if I had to create that in the movie, I could, because there it was, and I saw it, and it would be very real, And in movies, 3 days after a murder, they go in and the blood is still blood red. It would have turned brown within so many hours, They don't do that. They just don't know it to do it, okay? Anyway.
You being a monster creator and loving the classics monsters as well, would you ever create your own version of one of the classic monsters, or not basically create that same monster, but create a monster, shoot it in black and white, a film, to bring back a classic style to the horror films that a lot of us miss?
I would do that. When's the last time a black and white movie? Nebraska came out. That's black and white. Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, the critics that used to have a TV show, they showed a comedy and a horror movie, scenes, and they showed it in color, and they showed the ones that were in black and white. The comedy was funnier in black and white, and the horror movie was scarier in black and white, okay? I don't know why. Don't ask me that. But would I create a monster? The first things I ever did was creating the famous monsters of Frankenstein the Wolfman on Friends, But I think what I'd do, and this is, in regards to your first question, there was a time when they were going to remake Man of a Thousand Faces. PBS wanted to remake it. And they approached George Romero and Richard Rubenstein with the idea. And they asked us what we thought should be in it, what ideas that we thought should be in it. And, I wanted more scenes of, when Lon Chaney was a child, his parents were deaf mutes. So when he would come home from school, the only way he could talk to them and tell them what happened all day was to act it out. This is why he was such a great silent movie actor, because he could act physically with his body. And his face, too. He was. Well, there's a scene, his reaction to, well, it's a whole different movie, but he was quite the actor, physically and, emotionally. So some of my ideas were to, again, show him more as a kid, but also show him in the mirror creating those makeup effects in the very primitive, crude way that they did it back then, which was with cotton and collodion, this liquid plastic that it's 24% ether. Frankenstein's makeup was made of cotton and collodion, which was 9.5 hours that, he would go home and sleep in the makeup so he wouldn't have to do it the next day, Horrible, horrible techniques. He has a reputation for using fish hooks in his nose, but that never happened. It was something called fish skin, which is just silk organza. He would glue some to the tip of his nose, pull his nose way up and glue it to the bridge of his nose. So he'd have like a skull nose. And he would paint the holes bigger, okay? That's part of what the techniques that he did. But anyway, show him doing that in a makeup room in full color, and then showing it the way people saw it in the movie theater, which was in black and white. What a contrast of richness to what people saw back then. That's all they could see back then was black and white, So that's what I wanted to show, how life was full of color, but all you got back then in the 20s or early 20s before that, 25, was the black and white flickering images, on the screen. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Josh Lejeune.
Hey.
I'm a film student. Over the years that horror movies have progressed, we've gotten to an age now where it's considered to be called gore porn. Essentially because
torture porn, yeah.
all it is now is just the best way to make the most blood come out possible.
I know.
It's losing its artistic vision. What do
I
you
hate
think?
that stuff. I hate it. I don't, I own Hostel, never watched it. I own all 3 Saw movies. I've never watched them. Because although I hear Saw is pretty good and there's a message in there, but because to me it's not entertainment to capture some, and it's usually a girl, and torture her. It's just not entertainment for me. It's porn as far as I'm concerned. It's the same as pornography. So I don't watch that stuff, and I hate that stuff. And but you're right. It's how much there's an audience for it, a big audience, I guess, for it because there's so much of it. But that sounds strange coming from me, the Wizard of Gore, right? But at least there was some magic, there was some illusion, there was a magic trick going on, there was a unique thing going on there. I think you tuned into that and not the bloodlust, I mean, certainly was blood involved, but, when you saw Kevin Bacon getting that arrow coming through, it was shocking. Fuck, how did he do that, Did he really kill him, I mean, then that made you wonder about the effect and not get off on the fact that he was, although I'm sure some people got off on that glorious death of his, but... anyway. Yeah. Here's one. A microphone man. Oh, you got it. Okay.
For blowing up a head,
yeah.
What is the best food substitute for brains?
Well, I've blown up a lot of heads, okay? I blew up my own head in Maniac, okay? And that was filled with condoms filled with blood, shrimp dip, corn chips, anything I could find on the craft service table, I stuffed in that head, Chicken bones, apples, I someday we should slow down that effect and see, in Dawn of the Dead when I blew that guy's head off, see slow it down to see what's coming out of it. Because it was the same thing. It was condoms and anything on the food table, there was a visual effects guy on that movie. I'm sorry, practical effects guy. The guy that did the squibs, And his job was to blow up the head from within. So he put explosives in there, and the head went bloop. I said, give me that goddamn shotgun over here, I just took a double-barrel shotgun and blew it to smithereens. And the next movie he did was Scanners. And that head blowing up in Scanners, he did it with a shotgun from below and behind, because I did it in Dawn of the Dead. So he no longer tried to blow it up, from within. But yeah, so condoms and food, yeah. Go ahead. Do I believe that horror films allow us to face our deepest fears? Yeah, of course. I mean, you go to a horror movie, these are situations that you'll never be in, hardly ever be in, depending on your life, and yeah. I mean, for me, Vietnam was a horror movie, and it's tough to scare me. Well, spiders, of course, razor blades, Well, I just thought of something, speaking of just weird, and scares. My grandson's birthday was a couple of days ago. For his birthday, I allowed him to smash me in the face with a pie, okay? A big coconut meringue pie. It's on YouTube, it's on Twitter, check it out, okay? You just see the glee in his face, of smashing a pie in my face. Yes?
Hi, my name's Antonio. I'm in the Film Masters. I was wondering, when you were starting out, before you had all the experience, and basically, did you learn how you, while you went and started working out, or did you have a go-to guide at that time when you started working in the films?
No, when I was doing effects, nobody shared their secrets. You had to teach yourself, and I did dumb things. When I was a kid, I would go to school with half my eyebrows missing, nose putty in my hair for 2 weeks. Then I realized I could experiment on my friends, which is what I would do, and they would go home with cut throats and, half their hair burned off. I mean, not for real, but in makeup. But the parents aren't thinking that. They think, who did that to you? Savini. Well, you can't play with him anymore, So I learned by experimenting. In fact, I even asked my cousin who introduced me to Famous Monsters. He said, there's a magazine on the stand. I'm like 9, 10. There's a magazine on the stand it's all about monsters, And I went, and it was the 4th issue of Famous Monsters. I ordered all the back issues, so I have a number 1 of Famous Monsters, which is worth a fortune today, okay? But I asked him, I said, how do they put hair on actors to turn them into werewolves? And he said, spirit gum, I thought he said spearmint gum. So I'm chewing gum, and this can't be right, So I learned the hard way, okay? Except if you called Dick Smith. And you wouldn't call Dick Smith because he was God, okay? And you're this lowly guy who knows nothing, So, but I got the nerve enough, and I called him. And they're like, what? What do you want? I'm busy. Make a list next time when you call me so you have your questions right. Yeah, but if you can tell me, 2 hours later, he was still talking to me, still telling me how to do this or that, or make the blood formula, And then he would, back then it was Xerox, he would Xerox it and send it to you. So he shared his secrets, which is why I wrote my books, partly why my school exists. Because I wish I had a place like that when I was trying to learn stuff, Now it's so easy there's so many books out there on makeup effects, so many schools, My school is number 1 because it's a 16-month program. It's a degree program. Parents love that. It costs about half of what other schools charge for 11 weeks or 4 months, It's 16 months. We're not kidding. You can't learn in even 16 months, But we're not kidding around. And the attitude there is, this is school, because they're having so much fun, creating monsters and making their dreams come true, So anyway, I learned the hard way, But so did Rick Baker, so did guys like Rob Bottin. They taught themselves, they experimented.
Hey, Tom, I have a question over here.
Yeah.
I just read that the entire makeup budget for Dallas Buyers Club was only about $250. So how do you put together a makeup budget for a film when you see 30 kills, and what are you budgeting for?
Well, that's a good question. Normally when I get a script, I use the script to make a list of all the effects, okay? And that tells you how many people you're going to need, how much it's going to cost, for materials, how long it will take, But even before all that, I make sure, and I tell my students this, always talk to the director about what he wants to see for every effect. Because the script might say one thing, and you call the director, and you got 6, 9 bodies. Oh, no, we only need 2 bodies. There's going to be a big mirror, and we'll see a reflect. He'll have something in mind that is not what the script said for 6 bodies. So you must talk to the director about every single effect. What do you want to see? And then that gives you how many people you're going to need, how much materials you're going to have to buy, how long it's going to take, only after talking to the director. A lot of people make that mistake. They'll start building stuff, and, it's talk to the director. But, I also have a reputation for getting a lot done on little money. So, because I firmly believe, and this has been proven true all the time, there's never any exception, limitations make you more creative. Not having enough money, not having enough materials, not having enough people, It always makes you more creative. And, George Romero's movies are a prime example of that. When he was doing when he had no money and doing Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead. They were classic movies. When they started throwing tons of money on him, the movies were not successful. The Dark Half, things like that. So limitations always make you more creative. There's no exception. Yes, my road buddy. Oh. If I could go back in time and work on any horror movie that they made back then, what would I choose? That's a good one, because I would love to go back in time. I'd love to be reborn and be a teenager in 1925 at MGM or someplace like that, or RKO or Universal, to be on the set of The Phantom of the Opera, or when Karloff was walking around as Frankenstein, But would I go back in time just to do a horror? I think I want to go back in time to Dealey Plaza and prevent Kennedy's assassination. I think I would want to prevent Lincoln's assassination. These things are these piss me off. I'm still pissed off about Lincoln's assassination. Not to mention Kennedy. Anyway, but probably one of the studios around 1925 for me is when it all began with The Phantom of the Opera. So. Just to hang out, just to watch, Lon Chaney walk by, Yeah.
And from Dusk Till Dawn, how much did you contribute to the character Sex Machine?
Well, I wore that gun, didn't I?
What I mean is the character design.
Persona. They didn't want me for when they asked me to audition, it was for Fred Williamson's part of Frost. Okay, they called me on a Wednesday and said the following Thursday they need an audition tape from me. The script didn't arrive till the next Wednesday, the day before the audition tape had to be in. So I had no time to memorize lines. I wrote all of because I saw Sex Machine. And this guy was more interesting and had a better name, So I wrote all his lines on cue cards and put them around the bedroom. And so it looked like I was talking to a lot of people. And that audition is what got me, they changed the roles. They made Frost a big guy and Sex Machine a little guy. And I became Sex Machine because I made Quentin laugh, when they saw the audition tape, That's going to be part of a documentary coming out on me called Smoke and Mirrors, the whole audition thing. And then Robert Rodriguez talking about how I got the part. And he says exactly what I just said. But what else? When I come up behind Fred Williamson, it was my idea to just come up like a spider because I had these wonderful long fingernails, And Robert was great like that. I would say, hey, Robert, look at these nails. Because he wanted me to just jump up and grab them. I said, look at these fingers. What if I come up behind him? He said, show me. So I showed him. He did 9 takes of it, okay? He just loved this because it looked like spiders crawling over until you see it's me, okay? So that was part of my contribution. But as far as the look, when we were staking the vampires, Greg Nicotero and his crew would take a condom and fill it with blood. 2 guys would hold it. Greg would pull it and let go of the blood. And that's how they spray blood on people, okay? So when I was driving stakes into the vampire's heart, there's Greg and 2 guys ready to splash blood. I said, okay, don't hit me with that because I'm going to have to wear it for the rest of the movie, Splat right in the side of the head. So if you watch Dusk Till Dawn, I've got blood on this side of my head at all times after staking the vampires because he splashed me with that blood. So as far as the look goes, that accident and everything else was the costume department, So, yeah, very little.
Or did you, later on in your life, did you decide I want to do makeup and direct and stuff like that, or?
Let's see. I was a kid in a poor neighborhood, and it was seeing Man of a Thousand Faces that changed my whole life. When I was a kid, I shined shoes to buy makeup. Makeup is all I thought about. The reason you're here probably is because of the fact that you become what you think about all day long. All I could think about was makeup and wanting to create the monsters that I saw in the movies, being poor, there was very little money, and you had to take, I think it was 2 buses and a streetcar to get to the closest makeup store. It was stage makeup, theatrical makeup. And to get my hands on some crepe hair, man, that was heaven. That was like, I've made it if I can buy fake hair or nose putty or something. So it was the same answer to his question. It was seeing that movie that, I decided then and there. Before that, I was this little Italian kid loafing on the corner in Bloomfield. My life changed completely, dramatically by seeing that movie. And I don't know why. Was I Lon Chaney in a previous life? Was I a makeup artist or something? Why did I relate to that? Why wasn't that a movie I just saw and then moved on to other movies in my life, you know? That movie changed my life. Makeup became the most, I'd put my makeup kit in the attic and forget about it sometimes and then pursue acting or something. But I could always hear the makeup kit calling my name. Come play, It was always my first love, Yeah, anyway.
To piggyback on that question, is a great last question.
Okay.
You had a dream to be a makeup artist, and then you actually did it, became successful, and people are here watching you. What is it in you that inspired them to keep their dream true?
Well, let's see. What was it? Well, it was one word, passion. I mean, I don't know what the definition of passion is in the dictionary, but for me, it was just. It even exists today, like on simple things, like my friend Rob and I. We have this. Everything becomes a quest, and I think I'm drawing on that same passion that made me become what I am today. If I'm going to do it, it's going to happen. Nothing's going to stand in the way. Nothing at all. I don't care what. That's not going to get in the way. And you get it, and you pursue it, and you find it. Even if it's going and taking a picture in front of Mr. Toad's ride at Disney World, nothing's going to stop us. We're going there. If it's raining, I don't give a shit, And that's not a very good example, but I don't know, finishing a painting or something, or it's that. It still exists in me today. If I decide I'm going to do so, it takes a while. Not a while. It takes an effort to get to that point. Yes, I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm going to do that painting of this thing, or I'm going to sculpt Steve Reeves from Hercules. Okay, nothing's going to stop me from doing that. Nothing. So that was my attitude back then. It's almost like It's almost like it had to be. It's almost like it was laid out plan. Because even as a young kid, 15, I just knew. Although I'm a poor kid living in Bloomfield, I'm not doing movies. Every now and then I might do a commercial and make someone's eyes look further apart or adjust their toupee or something. But to me, I was already. And if you listen to people like Deepak Chopra or Dr. Wayne Dyer, they tell you to visualize like it's already happening. I was doing that without knowing that these guys existed or reading their stuff. I was visualizing it happening and acting like it was already happening, and it came. I mean, I'm not trying to spout about the Book of Secrets and the laws of attraction or any of that stuff. But there's some validity to that. Somehow it comes to you if that's all you want. And obviously, if you have a goal, and setting a goal is very important because it makes you, if you're like me, it makes you want to achieve that goal. So all your actions toward achieving that goal, what if it means driving to a certain place that you wouldn't have gone to if you didn't have that goal, or calling somebody that you might be afraid of, like I called Dick Smith. These are the driving forces. I mean, I can't be any more specific than things like that having a goal makes you do. It just makes you do stuff that attains it, okay? I guess that's it. It just makes you do stuff, having a goal, having a determination to achieve that goal that wouldn't be there if you didn't have it within you, Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
A pleasure, yes, thank you.